Hi there. About once a week, I want to do a video that's not like a clickbaity, like, oh my God, look what he did, or Trump did this. It's more conversations, things that real discussions about real problems, not like news or what happened, just kind of a general. Is Trump involved? Of course. It's hard to get away from him on anything because I do view him as a corrupting influence. When I say corrupting, I mean he has weaponized our worst selves and caused otherwise good people, moral people, to show a dark side, in my opinion. And when I say that, it's kind of like it's a coarsening. It's a dumbing down of our society, or a callousness that we've all kind of developed, to where we just don't we see, let's say, migrant farm workers, for instance, and a certain subset see invaders. We no longer see ourselves in other people. We no longer see ourselves in the less fortunate, those suffering from illnesses that ere before the grace of God go we. And I think that is partly because we've refused to confront these issues for decades. So if you know that there's a problem and you refuse to confront it, then eventually people think it's not really a problem. Or what we view it is not the problem that we think it is. It's really something that needs to be stamped down or destroyed or incarcerated or kicked out. And Trump started with the whole drug gang crime, Tren de Aragua. And let's just unpack why that is. First of all, we know the drug war doesn't work. We've known that for decades. They knew it when they started it. Why? Because we don't learn from our own history. We've already tried this type of criminalization and war against X, except we actually had a constitutional amendment to stop it. It was the temperance movement, and it was prohibition. And what did prohibition do? What was the result of prohibition? People didn't stop drinking. It just gave rise to Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, Valentine's Day Massacre, crime, massive crime, corruption. It was the mafia, organized crime. That's what prohibition gave us. And at the time, they spent a ton of money on revenue agents and prohibition agents to try and stop illegal alcohol and punish the people that consumed alcohol or imported it. Sound familiar? Is any of this sounding familiar? It didn't work. It didn't work at all. But what happened when we repealed prohibition? Organized crime, the crime went down. It broke the back of organized crime. They had to move on to other revenue producing streams that were much more dangerous for them from a criminal aspect, because we removed the profit incentive. And when you remove the profit incentive for something, there's no, again, we like money. Everybody likes money. Why are you going to do something if you can't make a profit off it? Particularly something kind of dangerous. And yet we have this drug war. Now, is the removal of, is decriminalizing drugs great? No, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying if you want to solve the cartel organized crime, you remove the profit incentive. And the only way to remove the profit incentive from that is to decriminalize drug use. And is it pretty? No. It's just it's awful. It looks awful. Nobody wants to see it. Addiction is not a pretty thing. And The Wire shows it. A TV show called The Wire shows it perfectly. I mean, they envision a scenario where this happens, and the cops kind of make a safe space for people to sell and consume, and everybody is sickened by it. And it is sickening. Seeing it is sickening. But yeah, none of the characters in the show think it was a good thing, but scarce resources for health, safety, mental health, social safety nets, social services, we're all able to concentrate into this area where the actual people were. And it had a measurable impact. So if we know that, and we have past historical examples, Why continue down a path of one of the highest incarceration rates in the world, criminalizing addiction because of optics, because it doesn't look good? We don't like the look of it. We can't see ourselves in those people, or we don't want to see ourselves in those people. We don't want it to our society. It is a moral failing. It is not a health failing. We think they did something wrong. They made poor decisions. They are weak in some fashion. Yet that's not necessarily the case. So we continue down this path, departments with tanks. And I'm just going to say this. Police are great people. They clean up our messes. But I tend to think that police officers would much rather be solving robberies or like murders, not kicking down doors where they might be facing machine guns or armed gang members because of a drug war. I'm just throwing that out there. I would think if they didn't have to do that, they'd be happy. But then that also leads towards the homeless problem, which Trump has used to put, tanks and the military into DC. We're going to solve this homeless problem. Well, let's unpack what created it. A large bulk of our homeless problem is due to lack of mental health resources, frankly. I have to fact check myself in the edit, but when Reagan shut down state mental health institutions, which was basically free mental health, they weren't great. Nobody's saying they were great. In fact, that's part of the justification used to shut them down, is that some of them were essentially torture chambers. But we just shut them down. There was nothing behind it to actually take care of the people that were in there. It was we just shut it down. And then the homeless population doubled or tripled overnight. So that's another thing we refuse to confront, because we see the homeless. I mean, obviously you see them, but we don't see them as, some of us do, but in general, we don't see them as people. Again, we view it as a moral failing when it's really not. It's a societal failing. And let's face it, most people, unless they have a family support system and everything else, are a couple bad decisions or a few bad months away from being homeless themselves. A lot of people, if you look at the Wall Street Journal or some of the economic statistics. So how can we sit there intellectually knowing that and still consider being homeless a moral failing, or they made poor decisions? I mean, a lot of these people are veterans. They have PTSD, they have mental health issues, they have treatable mental health issues, but the resources aren't there to help them, or it's difficult to get them to take them. And so we have this problem. And I will give Trump credit on this. I say he is a corrupting influence, and he has corrupted our society. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. He uses these issues to weaponize our own failings against us. The drug problem, the gang problem, the cartel problem. It's because we refuse to confront the fact that the drug war doesn't work that he is able to do this. The homeless problem and tanks in DC. Again, he's able to do this, and he's used it to take us to an extreme that these are not necessarily people, they're a problem to be solved. Same with immigration. And that's the third one. Reagan gave amnesty. Bush had a revamp on the table of our entire immigration and naturalization process, which would have solved the problem. Republicans killed it. So really, immigration is a Republican failing and a Republican problem. And I say that as a Republican. I mean, I don't agree with anything with the current party, and it's this issue, because we were able to, as a society, leave it on the table, that he was able to weaponize it to gain the presidency. And now we have something that is patently un-American, which is masked law enforcement without any identifiers snatching people off the street and put into horrible conditions, canned food, no health care, no medical care. and very little food. And in some cases, they're in, I mean, they're in camps that are showing up diseases that are horrific and are right out of like the Oregon Trail, dysentery, malaria. So because we've failed to solve these problems, we're now reaping the reward. Crime isn't getting any better. ICE isn't going around arresting cartel members. They're arresting fruit vendors. They're arresting your coworkers. They're arresting your landscaper, your home builder. And we all pay the price. If you've gone to the grocery store lately, we're paying a very high price for this. And yet, addiction rates are the same. They're not doing anything about the cartel violence. We're just getting our military in our streets. And these are all issues that we know the correct response. And it's because of our failing to do so that we are in the situation that we're in today. I know this is a rather preachy video, and I know a lot of people are not going to agree with any of my arguments. I get that. But again, there are historical parallels. Don't argue with me, argue with history. Prohibition didn't work. We know that. Is free drug use everywhere the correct solution? No, of course not. I don't think that at all. But is it a solvable problem? Probably for a lot less than we've spent on the drug war and criminalizing addiction and everything else? Yes. Yes. Study after study after study. Country after country after country has solved this problem without going to the extremes that we have. Portugal is a great example. And again, don't take my word for it, just research it. And not like Facebook research, but like actual research. Not Instagram research, but research. Just look it up. Portugal has essentially solved their drug problem. And they did it for substantially less money than we spend. And they have actual results, like an actual lowering of the rates of addiction. Isn't that the goal? If it isn't, then what are we doing? Why even bother? And I say that my politics are rather, unless it bothers me explicitly, I don't care what someone does. I am kind of a mind your own business kind of person. What you do is up to you. The consequences are also your own. That's just how it should work. And mental health care, of course, that's what we want to say about the gun violence and everything else. It's a mental health issue. Yet we never seem to scrounge up the mental health resources to solve these problems. Both homelessness and gun violence and all the things that we attribute to mental health problems, we just never seem to be able to scrounge up any type of solution for that. So again, what are we doing? Why blame it on something if you're why identify a problem unless you're willing to and identify a solution unless you're willing to actually solve it? Doesn't make any sense. All these options, if these were business decisions and these were businesses dumping millions of dollars, they've identified a problem, they're spending money to solve the problem, and it doesn't actually solve the problem, we'll cancel the program and find another approach. Guaranteed. Again, just my opinion. I'm sure there's other options out there. I'd be glad to hear other solutions. Drop it in the comments and see what it is. But for some of these are well-researched topics. These are well-researched problems. And the solutions are also well-researched and also applied. There's empirical evidence that the solutions work. So thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe. Appreciate you all.